Let's get started. And Emma Thompson, who played Bellatrix and Trelawney respectively. The reason for this dates back to the 90s, when Thompson and Potter director Ken Branagh were an item. They divorced after Branagh and Carter's affair became public, but thankfully, both actors are highly professional, and any animosity didn't spill into the set, with Thompson even citing who actually made peace with the whole debacle. While that's some immense points for both ladies for keeping it so professional at work, we're not sure we'd be able to follow their example in a similar situation. This little nugget of information works as both something fun for you to know, but also as a hats-off salute towards the prop department. There are an insane level of handcrafted items used for the Harry Potter movies. Most of them you don't even realize. For the entire series, Daniel Radcliffe used 160 pairs of prop glasses while also using around 65 different wands. They built 17,000 wand boxes for Ollivander's shop, each hand-labeled, and each of the memory vials for Dumbledore's pensieve were handwritten. They used 14 Ford Angelicas for the second movie and 250 body casts for various scenes, including petrification and Grimly demises. Talk about going above and beyond. While J.K. Rowling was not a writer for the Harry Potter films, she would go on to write the Fantastic Beasts films. She did overrule some decisions the script made. Being the creator of the property, we can see why Rowling would be a little overprotective of some character beats. One such moment was the duel between Snape and McGonagall in the 8th movie. Originally, it was supposed to be Harry dueling with the former potions master. Due to the whole connection between Snape and Lily, it could have been quite moving, but Rowling was adamant it would be McGonagall. Rowling believed that she needed a moment to shine and get more active with the plot, vetoing Harry out of the duel. Do you agree with Rowling on that one? Let us know. Did it bug you like it bugged us that Crabbe suddenly vanished from the franchise in the later movies? J.D. Wayland was
because he got arrested from Gone Reed.
6th century Half-Blood Prince, but during Deathly Hallows, he was not asked to come back, and the character of Crabbe was replaced with Blaise. Blaise is in the books, but was not one of Malfoy's goons, meaning he wasn't in the room of requirements when it burned. Jamie Wayland did not get to cap off his return to Hogwarts due to his arrest in 2009 for growing illegal substances. The actor would be arrested again for looting during the London riots. The casting for the core 3 students at Hogwarts are on point. Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter, just as Rupert Grint is Ron, and Emma Watson is Hermione.
If we was legal in Australia, I would stop drug dealing and smoke weed all the time.
The casting department went to
But
schools auditioning students.
eventually, weed is not legal, so I'm drug dealing, basically.
She simply wasn't interested in the idea of auditioning for the role and possibly acting as a result of it. Her teacher convinced her otherwise, and Emma would be the final audition at her school. So thank you, Emma Watson's teacher, for your contribution to the Potter films. We're certain you heard about the rather adult and intimate Easter egg found in the end credits of Prisoner of Azkaban. As the credits roll, footprints move around the Marauders map, and if you keep your eyes open, you'll notice something odd. 2 students are seen to be facing each other, with one set of legs open and the other pair between. This position led many to believe that this was 2 students hooking up, but Russ Wetherell, the man who designed the credits, put that to rest. He said that, in his mind, that's just 2 students sharing a hug, and it's not supposed to be anything raunchier than that. That being said, director Alfonso Cuarón loved the moment when he spotted it, and decided to leave it in for the adults. It's amazing what filmmakers can do with CGI these days. So many visual effects go unnoticed as they blend seamlessly into the movie. While this is the case now, it was not the case when the Potter films were just starting. This proved to be a bit of a challenge when it came to the owls having to deliver mail to the wizarding community, but they weren't going to let that slow them down. The crew working on the Harry Potter movies actually trained owls to deliver mail, much like we used to train ravens to do the same, just for the movie. On top of that, the letters that the owls had to carry were handwritten, not typed out on a computer. Aside from his glasses, messy black hair, and lightning bolt scar, the biggest defining feature Harry has are his eyes. People are constantly telling him they look just like those of his mother's. In the books, everyone makes a point to say that Harry's eyes are green, just like Lily's. And the filmmakers did try to bring this aspect of the book to life. Only Daniel Radcliffe proved to be allergic to the contacts, so Chris Columbus opted to keep Radcliffe's blue eyes. Thankfully, Lily Potter actor Geraldine Somerville also has blues, ensuring there was some continuity between the 2 characters on screen. Things would have been really awkward if one had blue and one had green eyes. The first Harry Potter film used the Duke Humphreys Library to portray the restricted section. In case you're wondering where that is, it's the oldest reading room in the Bodleian Library at the University of Oxford. The Bodleian was established in 1602, meaning that the treasures inside it are exceptionally old. With this in mind, open flames, especially in the hands of a child, are a huge red flag for the staff. But despite this, the library allowed for the production of Harry Potter to take place in the library, as well as allowing an open flame within its wall. This would be the first time a flame would be allowed inside the library in centuries. Thankfully, no books or scrolls got damaged due to the lamp. You know how we talked about Geraldine Somerville being cast in the role of Lily Potter throughout the series? But despite this, she actually wasn't the first person considered to play Lily. So want to take a guess at who was originally approached to play Lily? We'll give you a hint. She's the creator of the character. Well, she's the creator of all the characters. That's right, J.K. Rowling was originally asked to portray Lily Potter, which would have been fun as Rowling created Potter. Ultimately, Rowling opted not to do the cameo, perhaps due to it being too on the nose and would break the illusion. You have to admit though, Rowling could totally pass as Lily Potter. Now onto a slightly grimmer entry, but one to still bear in mind. Being a child actor isn't easy to begin with, but being cast in one of the most celebrated franchises of all time is going to put pressure on anyone. That's what happened to Daniel Radcliffe. He was thrust into the spotlight at such a young age that things started to get to him a few movies in. Whenever Radcliffe slipped a toe out of line, or did anything considered to be too grown up, the tabloids went nuts, which caused the teenager to sometimes show up to set with a few drinks in him. We don't know how bad it was, but thankfully, it never got to the point where they asked him to leave the role. You know what's awesome about Helena Bonham Carter? The fact that she goes all out for a role and utterly becomes the character she's playing, no matter who the character is. When it came time to portray Bellatrix Lestrange, she did not hold back. But perhaps she should have, at least a bit for the sake of Matthew Lewis, better known as Neville Longbottom. In the 5th movie, when she's threatening Neville, she accidentally pierced his inner ear with her wand. She decided to brandish the wand a certain way, but when Lewis shifted, the wand went totally up his ear. Talk about major pain. He only told her how much it hurt days after the incident, possibly due to how intimidating Bellatrix could be. So what happened to Madame Hooch? She was Harry's flying instructor in the first movie and also doubled as a referee for the Quidditch match between Gryffindor and Slytherin. Unlike the movies, the character appears in the rest of the book series. When it came time for the film adaptations, however, things were a little different. Warner knew that they'd have to play Hooch actress Zoe Wanamaker more for the second movie and decided that she didn't have too much bearing on the overall plot. So they decided to save some money by simply removing her from the narrative altogether, despite her appearances in the book. Did you miss Madame Hooch in subsequent movies, or did you not even notice? Let us know in the comments. You know how we spoke highly of the props department, going above and beyond with the sets? They handmade countless items just to bring certain locations to life. Well, this one piece of set design takes the cake, literally. In the first movie, after Dumbledore is given his speech, a declaration of letting the feast begin allows for countless amounts of food to magically appear. What could have easily been prop food, Chris Columbus insisted that all the food shown in the Great Hall actually be real food. Only due to the hot lighting and multiple takes, the food would actually spoil and start to smell. Subsequent food in future movies would be frozen or be mold props. While many of the young actors likely didn't have a clue about just how big the films were going to be, the same can't be said about the veterans. Knowing that, it's no surprise that some of them wanted to keep a few souvenirs from the set, and by keep, we mean steal. Coming from an interview with Jason Isaacs, he stated that Alan Rickman was an absolute pro at stealing props off the set. While having no scenes on this particular set, Rickman stole a slew of coins from the Gringotts vault. This inspired Isaacs to start stealing props, which started with a copy of the Daily Prophet. The problem is, he got busted by a set worker, who said director David Yates wanted the prop back. Oops. Speaking of Alan Rickman, let's tell a funny story about the Potions Master while he was on set. Being an accomplished actor, Rickman had a nice car at the time of filming The Order of the Phoenix, a BMW to be exact. But before this upgrade, he had a different car, and Matthew Lewis and Rupert Grint found themselves in this car. They spilled a milkshake in this car. When he brought his new BMW to work, he forbade the duo from coming within 5 meters of his new car. We can only imagine the inner Severus Snape coming out to terrorize the boys when he put this word into unspoken law. It seems like no milkshakes were spilled in the new BMW either. Improvised lines are always fun because the actors had to think of them on the spot and be memorable to trump whatever was in the script. This goes double for who may not be as well trained or accomplished as some of the veterans out there. Tom Felton proved any naysayers wrong during the Chamber of Secrets, however. In the movie, Harry used Polyjuice Potion to disguise himself as Goyle. Harry states that he read something and Felton saw this as the perfect segue to add his own line, commenting that he didn't know Goyle could read. That brutal and hilarious line was of Felton's own creation and is one of the best lines in the franchise, if you ask us. Kenneth Branagh was brought in to play Gilderoy Lockhart in the second movie, but did you know he wasn't the studio's first pick? Don't get us wrong though, we think Branagh nailed the role, which is why it's surprising to know that the studio wanted these actors initially. So, who was initially supposed to play the ditzy dark arts teacher? That was actually going to be Hugh Grant. He was cast in the role but had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts. Another contender before Branagh was actually the future Dumbledore, Jude Law, but at the time he thought to be too young looking to play a Hogwarts professor. We wonder if that consideration helped with his casting in Fantastic Beasts. In the first two Harry Potter films, the students wore their Hogwarts robes year-round, but this changed when Alfonso Cuarón was hired. If you're anything like us, this likely irked you so much, but there is a method for the madness, according to the director. Considering things get a little darker in The Prisoner of Azkaban and the themes get a bit heavier, Cuarón wanted the kids to wear clothes to reflect their personality. When it came time to wear the uniforms as well, he told the students to modify them a bit. That's why some students look prim and proper, and others have shirts untucked and ties are loose. We get the uniform bit, but are still uncertain about the casual wear at Hogwarts. Aside from chickenpox, do you remember what the biggest fear was at your primary school? If lice didn't come to mind right away, you had it too easy growing up. And while Hogwarts was a film set and not a real school, it still had the same problems due to that amount of kids in a confined space. During Chamber of Secrets, a lice breakout happened and hit many of the kids and even some of the adults. The lice scenario was so widespread that production actually had to stop in order to verify everyone working and terminate the parasites. As to how the lice breakout happened remains a mystery, but there are dozens of possibilities on set of a Harry Potter movie. While he didn't have too much to do with the character the more the series progressed, Dudley still showed up to torment Harry in the opening of a few movies, but he almost lost the role completely much earlier on in the cycle of movies. Actor Harry Melling lost a considerable amount of weight between the production of Chamber of Secrets and Prisoner of Azkaban, and he no longer fit the description of Dudley. Instead of cutting him out or giving the role to someone else, they got Melling to wear a fat suit for subsequent movies. Unlike the books, Dudley would have less impact on the opening of the narratives as the movies went on, which is a shame due to how they end up in the books. Want some proof that the trio of actors hired to play Harry, Ron, and Hermione were perfect for their respective roles? Look no further than this little bit of awesome trivia. While working on The Prisoner of Azkaban, Alfonso Cuarón asked each of the three actors to write an essay on their characters to understand them better. What happened next was a true reflection of the characters they were hired to play. Emma Watson wrote a 16-page essay on Hermione. Daniel Radcliffe turned in a one-page analysis of who Harry Potter is, while Rupert Grint didn't even do it, stating that Ron would have likely not done it either, which explains why he's always copying homework in the books. Sometimes doing nothing is the right thing indeed. When one thinks of the Harry Potter books, there's only one word that should come to mind after magic: British. Apparently, Warner Bros. Got that memo late, as they were considering an American cast early on in pre-production. One of the studio's favorites was the late Robin Williams in the role of Hagrid. Chris Columbus was also considering Liam Aiken for the role of Harry Potter, but J.K. Rowling stepped in and intervened, stating that the cast must be British to reflect the book. She won on this one, and the entire cast would end up being British, with one exception, that of the late Vern Troyer, who played the Goblin Griphook in the first movie, but was dubbed in post-production by Warwick Davis. So those are all the cool little details from behind the scenes of the Harry Potter films. Which tidbit of trivia did you think was particularly cool, and what did you already... So, you think you know everything about The Boy Who Lived?
Yeah, a bit.
Well, there's more to Harry Potter than what you saw on screen.
Really?
Over the course of 8 movies, the filmmakers needed to make some painful decisions in order to bring your favorite movies about the wizarding world from the page to the screen. Join Screen Rant as we give you 15 of the most magical deleted scenes that just might change all the things you think you know about the alumni of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Begin. How many of you wish that you could know exactly what your friends, acquaintances, fellow students, or co-workers think of you at any given time? While Harry has an invisibility cloak at his disposal, allowing him to snoop on whoever he wants at Hogwarts at all hours of the night, he's also lucky enough to have an honest group of best friends. Ron and Hermione have his best interests at heart, and it's no surprise that they're brutally truthful with Harry, even during their second year of schooling together. In the Chamber of Secrets, when Harry learns that he can talk to snakes, Harry begins to doubt who he is. After all, being a Parseltongue isn't exactly something witches and wizards fawn over, and Ron and Hermione fuel his speculation by agreeing that he just might be the heir to Slytherin. Hermione goes on to say, "For all we know, you could be." In an extension to this deleted exchange, Harry, sitting alone outside Hogwarts, asks his owl, "Who am I?" This deleted scene shows us firsthand that Harry has his own doubts about his background, and it feeds into the major mystery driving the plot. If Harry doesn't even know who he truly is, then perhaps the audience thinks Harry might be the one who's opening the Chamber of Secrets. When the 5th book, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, was released, much of the hubbub among the fans came from the fact that Sirius Black, a fan-favorite character, met his untimely end. Actor Gary Oldman's portrayal made Sirius Black even more of a sympathetic and tragic character in the films. But much of the film series audience was left disappointed by the ending of the Order of the Phoenix movie. This stems from the fact that in the filmmakers' rush to reach the ending, we, the audience, weren't given much time to grieve Sirius Black's final moments on screen. While his disappearance beyond the veil in the Ministry of Magic fueled speculation over what actually happened to Black, this deleted scene might have helped some fans cope with the loss of this iconic character. This moment, removed from the end of the 5th film, sees Harry packing his belongings at the close of the school year. Ron enters and asks Harry to join him at the end of the year feast, but Harry isn't in the mood. Ron confides that he's not feeling hungry either, but takes the hint and leaves Harry alone. Downstairs, Ron sees Hermione and...
Now this is a story all about how fast food got straight turned upside down. So one huge bite of that foot-long bread and said, "Yo, skip the
Fuck
grease,
off, Ed.
fresh instead."
And shakes his head. While we're given many scenes that solidify the main trio's relationship, this moment would have helped to better illustrate the impact of Sirius Black's demise on the 3 main characters before the end credits roll. Deathly Hallows Part 1 is a road movie. While a good-sized portion of the fanbase might prefer the climactic battles of Deathly Hallows Part 2, the first installment shows the last leg of our lead character's journey before their final confrontation with Voldemort. There's a lot of time for personal growth, a lot of small character-building conversations, and, well, a lot of running. The movie is big on setting a generally brooding mood, but it doesn't allow much time to show our characters having fun. The thing is, though, they're still teenagers, and they're not all gloom and doom. If anything, Harry, Ron, and Hermione are still driven by hope. So it makes sense for them to have a bit of fun during their downtime. Unfortunately, one sequence showing Harry and Ron horsing around was removed from the finished film. When Harry and Ron spot a rabbit, they attempt to capture him. Eventually, they playfully turn their wands on each other, and it's all fun and games, up until Ron nearly gives Harry a bad wound by accident. This moment seems to remind the characters of the danger they're in, and they quickly return to their somber state of mind. The great thing about the Harry Potter series is that in spite of all of the ethereal magic and otherworldly events that occur throughout the books and movies, we're constantly reminded of the characters' humanity. And there's nothing more human than a person's ability to evolve over time. One character who may not get enough credit for the changes they undergo throughout the story is Draco Malfoy. The boy, introduced as the bully we all love to hate, is ultimately revealed to be the weak-hearted guy who's being pressured by the expectations of his powerful and ill-intentioned family. When he finally starts to turn against his family and their support of Voldemort toward the end of the series, it's a small victory among all the chaos of the Battle of Hogwarts. One deleted moment would have added to this dynamic. When Harry is facing off against Voldemort in their final duel, the boy who lived has just been resurrected and challenges the leader of the Death Eaters to one last face-off. In this sequence, Draco, who's seemingly inspired by his former rival's survival, throws Harry his wand. It's a nice touch, and makes the finale of the series that much more satisfying. When The Prisoner of Azkaban was released, many fans were shocked by the visual style and darker tone of this film, especially when compared to the two previous installments. With the first two films directed by Chris Columbus, whose experience making kid-centric movies contributed to his wide family appeal, the third installment was directed by Alfonso Cuarón, who created a moody world perfect for the changing times and raging hormones of Harry Potter's third school year. Many followers of the franchise were thrown off by the style shift and complained that this film was less true to the books than the first two movies. While Alfonso Cuarón did take some liberties, he managed to fit most of the book's big moments into the finished film.
It doesn't have to be based on the books.
However,
It
involved
can
the
base
Sneakoscope, the device that
it
Ron
can
gives
base
Harry activates
basically
when
how
anybody
what
with
it could
nefarious
be.
or untrustworthy
It's a
intent
movie,
is lurking
not a
around.
book.
It turns on when Harry is
For
around his
fuck's
pals,
sake.
and our hero believes it's broken. Yet, the Sneakoscope is later proven to be fully functional when it's revealed that Ron's pet rat, Scabbers, has
If
been
you
the
don't
traitor
like
Peter
the
Pettigrew this whole
movies
time.
of Harry Potter, then don't watch
Another
them.
moment cut from Prisoner
Just
of
read
Azkaban
all the
proves
books
how
over and
close
over and
Alfonso
over.
Cuarón tried to stick
How
to the
about
books.
that?
In the movie, we see the painting
Simple
of the
enough.
Fat Lady, whose portrait blocks the entrance to the Gryffindor dormitory, but we don't get to see the painted blundering knight known as Sir Cadogan. Due to her increased prominence in the third book's plot, Cuarón recast the role of the Fat Lady, with famed British actress and comedian Dawn French taking on the role. The Fat Lady gets her own scene, in which she reacts to an attack by Sirius
If
Black
I was a bunch of Harry Potter,
when she wouldn't let him in. But the scene that featured
those
Sir Cadogan
movies,
took
I
her
wouldn't
place
care
as
what
the
people
entrance to
think.
The Gryffindor common room was cut. This sequence also revealed that Sirius Black eventually was able to enter the common room by finding a piece of paper with the password that
Yeah.
was misplaced by Neville
Fuck those
Longbottom,
people
or Neville.
who reckon Harry Potter should be, Harry Potter movies should be like
The
the
structure of
books.
each of the Harry Potter stories often follows that of a mystery. The characters are given a series of fantastical clues that leads them to create a list of suspects. While the audience
Yeah.
is allowed to come to their own conclusions, the characters often pursue their primary suspect until someone totally unexpected is revealed to them. In The Goblet of Fire, however, we were originally going to be treated to a scene in which the lead trio talked through their suspicions and pieced it all together before our eyes. In Goblet of Fire, this particular scene works well because it shows how Harry, Ron, and Hermione
Guess let's have a
developed
joint, I guess,
through the course
and
of
then
their
the smoke.
adventures over the past several years. It also shows how disillusioned they've become with the authority figures in their lives. Ron believes Cornelius Fudge and the rest of the Ministry of Magic will cover up the negative events surrounding the Triwizard Tournament. Hermione goes on to theorize that the pain around Harry's scar, among other things, point to bigger things at play. We as the audience may think these facts are pretty obvious, but it's a big deal to hear these characters coming to these conclusions themselves. Hogwarts, Hogwarts, Hoggy-Warty, Hogwarts, teach us something, please. I'm not paid enough to do this, guys. Nope, that's not the latest hit song by the Weird Sisters. That is the official Hogwarts school anthem. According to Harry Potter experts, the last time that song graced the Great Hall was during the Great Feast at the start of Harry's first year. Yes, J.K. Rowling included this catchy little ditty in the very first book, but it wasn't committed to film until the fourth movie, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Dumbledore conducted while sing-along font appeared above the teachers' dais. Some of the students sang with more gusto than others, and while it's a lot of fun to watch in the special features in the Goblet of Fire DVD, it did not make it into the final version of the film. Perhaps the filmmakers thought that there were already too many musical moments, with Durmstrang and Beauxbaton each getting their own entrance music and the school dance occurring later in the movie. Still, it would have been nice for audiences in the theaters to be treated to this song as extra credit for all the hours we spent at Hogwarts ourselves. Another deleted scene that would have made things more interesting had they kept it in the movie is the moment revolving around the explanation of the taboo in Deathly Hallows Part 1. In the wizarding world, a taboo is an enchantment in which a word, when spoken, allows a magical person to zero in and keep tabs on whoever's spoken this chosen word. At the beginning of the franchise, J.K. Rowling made it clear that the vast majority of people feared saying Voldemort's name.
Voldemort. They referred to the villain as You-Know-Who, or He Who Must Not Be Named. Since anybody who actually used Voldemort's name was probably a member of the Order of the Phoenix, the Death Eaters were able to find their enemies when these enemies uttered the word Voldemort. That's how, in Deathly Hallows Part 1, the Snatchers were able to find Harry, Ron, and Hermione in the woods. A scene in the movie explained this fact, but it was likely cut for time since the filmmakers expected that book readers already knew this.
That's how they track people now. How do you know that? I've heard some bloke at the ministry talking about it.
They also probably figured that most fans who just watched the movies were probably already too swept up in the 7-movie story to really care about the details. Still, this scene would have helped fill in the blanks for uninitiated viewers. Ah, those heady days of 2001, when the first Harry Potter film was released. At that time, fresh-faced fans likely had no idea Voldemort would return in the flesh as the main villain of the series. Back then, the biggest twist was that Professor Quirrell was the main villain of the series. Even book readers, who were well aware of what happened to their favorite characters up through Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which was published in 2000, had no idea Grindelwald would play such a big part in the later installments and movies of the franchise. To them, he was just a throwaway reference, mentioned as part of Dumbledore's bio on his chocolate frog card. The card read, considered by many the greatest wizard of modern times, Dumbledore is particularly famous for his defeat of the dark wizard Grindelwald in 1945. For the discovery of the 12 uses of drag, discovers it in Sirius's old bedroom at number 12 Grimmauld Place. In the letter, Lily thanks Sirius for a birthday present he sent to baby Harry. She also starts to divulge some gossip about Dumbledore, saying, by the way, Bathilda tells the most amazing stories about our old headmaster. I don't know how much to believe. Can it really be true that Dumbledore... And then the text continues on a second page, which Harry can't seem to find. That unfinished bit of information piques our interest and helps to feed the Dumbledore rumors about which we learn more in the next film. Remus asks Harry to be Teddy's godfather in Deathly Hallows Part 1. This would have helped to make Remus and Tonks' demises more meaningful in Deathly Hallows Part 2. Obviously, we care deeply about these characters, especially Remus Lupin, who has had a great deal of screen time up until this point. But their ultimate fate in the finished version of Deathly Hallows Part 2 almost seems like an afterthought. Sure, we get the sad but beautiful moment of Harry spotting the two of them lying motionless during a lull in the battle, their hands reaching towards each other as an expression of the love they shared. Yet the film series had spent so little time with them in the later installments of the franchise. Therefore, it would have been great if the creative team had left in more conversations between Lupin and Potter, where Harry's former professor and family friend formally asks Harry to be his son's godfather. While we never really would have gotten to spend time with the character of Teddy, this moment would have better illustrated how life goes on for these characters, even in the time of crisis. In the lead-up to the Battle of Hogwarts, we were originally going to learn more about Dumbledore's brother, Aberforth, while the book, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, provides us with more info regarding Dumbledore's less renowned kin. The filmmakers decided to streamline the exchange between the trio and Aberforth in order to get our heroes back to Hogwarts as soon as possible. It works to keep the momentum up, but it sacrifices the ability for non-reading viewers to fully understand what's going on with Aberforth, how he's getting them to Hogwarts, and why he's helping them. In the world of Harry Potter, anything can be explained away by magic, and it's always more interesting to keep things mysterious. But every once in a while, it's nice to spoil the audience with a bit of character development, which is why it's a shame they deleted this exchange between the trio and Aberforth. When Harry explains how he's trying to fulfill Dumbledore's wishes, Aberforth warns him that Dumbledore's wishes usually end up destroying whoever the old wizard was close to. This is a nice nod to Aberforth's own relationship with Albus and their sister Ariana, and we wish they could have kept it in. Throughout the series, the Dursleys have been nothing but horrible to Harry. But they have appeared at the beginning of every single one of Harry's school years. And since they've been such an essential, if small, part of Harry Potter's story, it was a shame their appearance at the beginning of Deathly Hallows Part 1 was reduced to a tiny cameo. Deleted scenes expanded on exchanges between Harry and his Aunt Petunia, as well as Harry and his cousin Dudley. In the first moment, Petunia stands alone in an empty room, ruminating on leaving her home of 20 years. She then goes on to say,
"You didn't just lose a mother that night in Godric's Hollow, you know. I lost a sister.
What's interesting about this moment is that it's not entirely clear whether Petunia is using this moment to try connecting with Harry in ways she's never fully able to, or if she's simply trying to get in one last dig at the boy before leaving him for good. Outside the house, Dudley approaches Harry for a different exchange. Defying Uncle Vernon's wishes to leave immediately, Dudley confides in Harry that he doesn't think Potter is a waste of space. It shows J.K. Rowling's and the filmmakers' belief that even the most pig-headed and hard-nosed people can change and evolve over time.
See you, Big D.
After 7 years of Hogwarts and 8 Harry Potter movies, these 15 deleted scenes just scratch the surface of all the footage cut from the finished films. So let us know if there are any other deleted scenes that you wish were kept in the films. Add your thoughts in the comments section below and subscribe to Screen Rant for more videos like this one. See you next time!
Someone say KFC?
Fuck off, lads. No one cares. Here we are.
I need to go with myself about this. We all go to the other end of the platform, Dan. Please. Right now, first years this way. Come on now, hurry up. First years, come this way, please. Come on now. Come on. Oh, hurry. Right then, follow me.
Welcome to your first night. Well, what are you waiting for? Everyone step up to the left side of that room. Come on now, hurry up. Take your right hand over your room and say up. Up with feeling. Concentrate, concentrate.
He's wrestling with it. He's wrestling with it. He's right here. He's right in the corner of He goes up with it, up, and then back down, back over here. Then too far that way. Okay, cut. Security bell.
Professor Dumbledore, immediately!
I'm afraid Professor Dumbledore is not here. He received an urgent owl from the Ministry of Magic and left immediately for London.
And action.
There was no stranger Hagrid met in the village. It was Snape, which means he knows how to get past Fluffy. And Dumbledore gone.
Good afternoon. Now what would 3 young Gryffindors such as yourselves be doing in...
Just brief behind the scenes. Okay, nah, I don't want to watch this. I want to watch groupies. Why not watch this? It's a fan film of Harry Potter. But this one takes place, you know, it's a sister of Voldemort. You know what I mean? Let's have a smoke, I guess. It's the daughter of Bellatrix, pretty much, and Voldemort. See here? Read that. Yeah, it's a fan film. Full film. So it's a fan made.
Do you think this dark wizard really exists? I thought it was just some silly gossip going around the school.
I know he does. Rodolphus Lestrange is the one to talk to.
You should put more on him too, see what happens.
You watching, Mudbloods? This just proves that purebloods really are the most powerful.
Shut it, Lestrange. I could what this thing means. I mean, I've heard about two Wonkods. It means together we can do incredible things. It means we have a bond like no other. We can't break it.
You will never see her again. If you do, you will meet the same fate.
Hey, you still imagine the sea would be useful? I can see exactly what's going on.
This is important. Magical purity is getting weaker. We need to ensure that the Black Line remains powerful. You need to set an example. You know that Muggles are causing wars and destruction in this world. Their weak-minded blood does not belong with ours.
Oh, we'll marry a pure blood. But right now, especially after I got my own apprenticeship, and we've got all those newts I worked so hard for. Besides, when I do marry, I want it to be my choice. I do it my own way. I don't appreciate being posted around like a witch weekly magazine.
Please, be quiet. You're no longer at Hogwarts, Bellatrix. You've left it far too long.
I guess I better
Oh, so this is not based out on the daughter. Okay, this is Bellatrix.
If you do, there is a very easy way to fix this.
Yes, she's forgotten enough as it is.
You are a disgrace to our house. Deal with you.
Father, Father! How can you act? Ted? Tom? I think he's in my year at Hogwarts. Yeah, a 7th-year Hufflepuff. Muggle-born.
Got these knickers for the...
And what exactly are these? Some sort of Muggle Defense Society?
are the three sisters I spoke to you about. The ones?
I'm Bellatrix Black. And I've no doubt that you know the name that my sisters and I share. We are from the most noble...
Silence. I have heard of the Black family. Most prestigious, noble line. Always pure. However, you are Hogwarts students. Albus Dumbledore may be a hypocritical blood traitor. He is no fool. His power is unrivaled. His downfall will come at my hand at the opportune moment. It's rather disappointing, Strange. It is why you are not yet Death Eater like your father.
My lord, I believe you will find great value in Bellatrix. She currently has an Auror apprenticeship in the Ministry.
And I was four-times dueling champion at Hogwarts.
Very well. Duel with me. Duel with me. Bellatrix Black.